April 30th, 1943. A Spanish fisherman pulls a waterlogged corpse from the ocean near Huelva, Spain. The body is wearing a Royal Marines uniform. There's a briefcase chained to his wrist. And inside that briefcase are documents so sensitive that Adolf Hitler himself will read them within 48 hours. But here's the thing. The man is a complete fabrication. The documents are fake. And the entire operation was designed by the guy who created James Bond. This is Operation Mincemeat, the most audacious and successful deception operation of World War II. And the story behind it is somehow even stranger than the mission itself. In 1943, the Allies were planning to invade Sicily. But the Germans knew it was coming. Everyone knew Sicily was the obvious next target. So British intelligence came up with a plan so bizarre that even they couldn't believe it would work. Take a homeless man's corpse, dress him as a military officer, give him a fake identity, complete with love letters, theater tickets, and a photograph of his fiancée, who didn't exist. Then dump him in the ocean off Spain with forged documents that would convince Hitler the invasion was happening somewhere else entirely. In the next 9 minutes, I'm going to tell you how this insane plan saved thousands of Allied lives, toppled Mussolini, and turned the tide of the war. And I'm going to reveal details that the Netflix movie left out, including who the corpse really was, and why he died just weeks before becoming the most important dead man in history. Let's dive in. Let's start with the problem. It's early 1943. The Allies have just won in North Africa. The next logical target is Sicily, the stepping stone to invading mainland Italy. But Sicily is heavily fortified. The Germans have troops, aircraft, and defensive positions all over the island. And here's the nightmare. Everyone knows the Allies are coming. There's no strategic surprise. So British intelligence realizes they need to do something unprecedented. They need to make Hitler think the invasion is happening somewhere else. Enter two men, Lieutenant Commander Ewen Montagu, a naval intelligence officer, and Flight Lieutenant Charles Cholmondeley, an RAF officer working for MI5. Together, they're going to mastermind one of the most audacious lies in military history. But here's what most people don't know. The idea didn't come from them. It came from a memo written in 1939 by Admiral John Godfrey, the director of naval intelligence. The memo was called the Trout Memo because it compared deceiving the enemy to fly fishing. You cast out bait, and you wait for the fish to bite. One of the suggestions in that memo? Drop a corpse with fake documents out of an aircraft and make it look like a plane crash. Let the enemy find it. Let them believe it. And Godfrey's personal assistant, the guy who actually wrote most of that memo? A young naval intelligence officer named Ian Fleming. Yeah, that Ian Fleming, the guy who would later write the James Bond novels. So in a very real sense, Operation Mincemeat was conceived by the man who created 007. Now, Montagu and Cholmondeley have an idea, but they need 3 things to make it work. 1. A body. 2. A fake identity so convincing that even Hitler's intelligence officers would believe it. 3. Forged documents that looked authentic enough to fool the Nazis. And they had to get all 3 right. Because if even one detail was wrong, the entire deception would collapse, and thousands of Allied soldiers would die. Let's start with the body. Finding a suitable corpse is harder than you'd think. The body needs to look like it drowned in a plane crash. That means it can't have visible wounds that would contradict the story. It can't be decomposed beyond recognition. And ideally, it should be someone with no family, no one who would ask questions or file a missing person report. Montagu contacts the coroner of Street Pancras, London, and asks him to keep an eye out. In January 1943, the coroner calls back. He's found someone, a 3-4-year-old Welsh man named Glyndwr Michael. Glyndwr's life was tragic. His father committed suicide when he was young. His mother died when he was 31. He'd struggled to hold down jobs and eventually drifted to London, homeless and destitute. On January 24, 1943, Glyndwr ingested rat poison, likely intentionally, though the exact circumstances are unclear. He died in a hospital shortly after. No next of kin, no one to claim the body, and cause of death: phosphorus poisoning, which causes fluid in the lungs. It would look exactly like drowning. Perfect. The British intelligence services take custody of the body and store it in a morgue, preserved on ice. They have 3 months before decomposition makes the corpse unusable. Now comes the hard part, turning Glyndwr Michael into Major William Martin. They give him a new identity. Born March 29, 1907, in Cardiff, Wales. An officer in the Royal Marines. Engaged to be married, they create fake documents meticulously detailed. A photograph of his fiancée, Pam. The photo is actually of Jean Leslie, a 19-year-old MI5 clerk who volunteers her picture. Love letters from Pam, written by Montagu himself, full of affectionate teasing and wedding plans. Receipts for an engagement ring. 2 theater ticket stubs from a London show, dated April 22, 1943, suggesting Martin had recently been in London. An overdraft notice from his bank, scolding him for spending too much money. A letter from his father, gently chiding him about his debts. Every detail is designed to make Major Martin feel real. A guy with a fiancée, financial problems, and a life waiting for him back home. Then they dress the body in a Royal Marines uniform, complete with rank insignia and identity tags. They chain a black leather briefcase to his wrist, the kind a military courier would use for classified documents. And inside that briefcase, the fake intelligence that will change the war. The centerpiece of Operation Mincemeat is a personal letter fake, but written by a real general, Lieutenant General Archibald Nye, Vice Chief of the Imperial General Staff, writes a letter to General Harold Alexander, Commander of Allied Forces in North Africa. The letter is marked personal and most secret. Nye opens with, "My dear Alex," the kind of informal greeting used between old friends. This is critical. The letter can't look like an official military document. It has to look personal, like something that wouldn't normally be sent through official channels. The letter discusses several mundane topics, appointments, medals, administrative matters. But buried in the middle is the payload. Nye mentions Operation Husky, the real codename for the Sicily invasion, but describes it as a feint, a diversionary attack to draw German attention away from the real targets. And what are the real targets, according to the letter? Greece and Sardinia. The letter even names specific beaches in Greece where the Allies will land. It mentions troop numbers. It discusses logistical concerns. It's a double bluff. Nye writes, "We stand a very good chance of making the Germans think we will go for Sicily. It is an obvious, objective, and one about which they must be nervous." In other words, the letter is designed to make the Germans believe that the Allies want them to think Sicily is the target, when in reality, the invasion really is Sicily. It's brilliant and diabolical. The forged letter is placed in the briefcase, along with a second letter from Lord Louis Mountbatten to Admiral Sir Andrew Cunningham, further reinforcing the Greece deception. On April 19, 1943, the body of Glyndwr Michael, now Major William Martin, is placed inside a steel canister filled with dry ice to slow decomposition. The canister is loaded onto HMS Seraph, a British submarine, and the mission begins. April 30th, 1943. Just before dawn, HMS Seraph surfaces off the coast of Huelva, Spain. Huelva was chosen very carefully. The local Spanish military officers are pro-German. There's a German consul in the town, and the ocean currents will push the body close to shore. Lieutenant Norman Jewell, the submarine commander, and his officers carefully remove the body from the canister. They dress it in a Mae West life jacket. They check that the briefcase is securely chained to the wrist. They place the body gently into the water. About half a mile away, they release an inflatable dinghy turned upside down to suggest a plane crash. At 4:30 a.m., Jewell sends a coded message to London, "Mincemeat complete." The submarine dives and disappears. Hours later, at 9:30 a.m., a local sardine fisherman named Jose Antonio Rey Maria spots something floating in the water. It's a body. Spanish soldiers recover the corpse and notify the local authorities. A British vice consul named Francis Haselden is officially informed, and he immediately sends an urgent, encrypted message to London, demanding the return of the briefcase because it contains sensitive military documents. The British knew these messages would be intercepted. The Spanish military was full of German sympathizers, and the more desperate the British seemed to recover the briefcase, the more valuable the Germans would think its contents were. The bait is in the water. Now they wait for the fish to bite. The Spanish military conducts an autopsy on May 1st. The British vice consul attends, watching nervously. The cause of death? Drowning? Following an aircraft accident at sea. Exactly as planned. Behind the scenes, pro-German Spanish officers photograph the documents in the briefcase. They use thin steel rods to carefully roll the letters out of their envelopes without breaking the seals. The forgeries are so good that the Spanish believe they're handling real classified intelligence. Copies of the documents are sent to the German Abwehr military intelligence in Madrid. From there, they go straight to Berlin. And on May 14th, 1943, in a high-level meeting with Grand Admiral Karl Donitz, Adolf Hitler himself declares, Sicily is not the real target. The Allies will invade Greece and Sardinia. Hitler personally orders the 1st Panzer Division moved from France to Greece. 7 infantry divisions are redeployed from Italy to the Balkans. Another 10 divisions are sent to defend Sardinia. Naval minefields are laid around Greece. Luftwaffe aircraft are repositioned. Germany is preparing for an invasion that will never come. Meanwhile, British codebreakers at Bletchley Park are reading German communications. They can see, in real time, that the Germans are moving troops away from Sicily. On May 14th, Churchill receives a telegram from Montagu. Mincemeat swallowed rod, line, and sinker. The deception has worked beyond their wildest expectations. July 9th, 1943. The real Operation Husky begins. 160,000 Allied troops land on the beaches of Sicily. They're expecting heavy resistance. Fortified positions, minefields, fierce German counterattacks. Instead, they find the island undermanned and unprepared. The Germans had pulled so many troops out of Sicily to defend Greece and Sardinia that the defenders were overwhelmed. In just over a month, the Allies capture the entire island. And even after the invasion starts, Hitler still believes Greece is the real target. He thinks Sicily is the diversion. By the time German High Command realizes the mistake, it's too late. The success of the Sicily invasion triggers a cascade of events. On July 25th, the Italian Grand Council votes to limit Mussolini's power. The next day, King Victor Emmanuel III dismisses Mussolini as prime minister. Mussolini is arrested. Italy's fascist government collapses. Within weeks, Italy begins secret negotiations to surrender to the Allies. Operation Mincemeat didn't just deceive Hitler. It toppled Mussolini, opened up the Mediterranean, and saved thousands of Allied lives. Sir Michael Howard, the official British military historian, called it perhaps the most successful single deception operation of the entire war, all because of a homeless man who died from rat poison, dressed as a Marine he never was, carrying documents for a mission he never flew. So here's what you need to remember. In 1943, British intelligence turned a homeless man's corpse into a fake military officer, dumped him off the coast of Spain, and convinced Adolf Hitler to move an entire Panzer Division to Greece to defend against an invasion that never happened. The operation was conceived by Ian Fleming, the creator of James Bond. It saved thousands of lives, and it changed the course of World War II. Glyndwr Michael never knew his death would make him one of the most important men in modern history. His grave in Spain is marked William Martin, the identity he never asked for, but wore better than anyone could have imagined. If you want more stories of espionage, deception, and military secrets, hit that subscribe button. Next up, the double agent who tricked Hitler into losing D-Day and the Nazis never even suspected him. Comment below, what's the craziest deception operation you've ever heard of?